Hey Greg, how's it going? I'm throwing together another short little video about your coaching summary thus far. So we're going to go over your initial coaching goals, like what you wanted to get out of that first consult, what we've done to improve these things, and then basically where you're at now. So the big three takeaways that I had from our first consult was to reducing your knee pain. That's actually how our first, our conversation started. Was you were saying that you were having, I believe it was some ACL damage at the time, a lot of knee instability and then weakness. So we wanted to, return strength and function to that limb. And then the second goal that we found out a little bit later on was that you had a lot of shoulder pain, various shoulder injuries accumulating over the years. It left you with relatively little overhead strength and pretty limited function, both in an overhead pulling position and an overhead pushing. I remember you talking about how your chin ups and your pull ups for your PT tests were always pretty grueling. And then you tend to just to avoid overhead pressing and really, most barbell work just in general. And then just to improve, our general performance at grappling and then the other recreational sports that you would want to do with yourself or the fiance. So the things that I'm the most proud of is definitely, number two. I think we did a really good job of restoring your overhead strength and function by a good bit. So if we go back, if we look at I want to say it was either your first or your second at-home workout on your own. Your first press workout was 35 pounds for 5 sets of three, and then over time we've just built up our capacity so that your heaviest set has been 145 for two, but now you're at the point where you can knock out 135 really any day of the week that you want, and you have the work capacity to do um, a decently good bit of volume at and around that number. And then the same thing for your vertical pulling. So us recently introducing the lat pull down and then the chin up. We did use the row as a way to facilitate that. So the row, the face pulls, all those things. That was a really good way, to get the shoulder stronger and healthier in a way where you wouldn't be garnering that pain response when you were pulling over your head. So now we're at the point where for your last workout, we were doing those chin up grip pull downs with the pause at the bottom for 100 for a pretty decently big set. So I have a good amount of confidence within a few months we'll be able to get you to doing your free hanging pull ups or chin ups without pain. That's always been a big goal of mine for you. And with the row itself, we took that from being 65 pounds on your first workout. To the last workout we did them with before that forearm injury that we had, all the way up to 155 for a set of six. So that was definitely really good progress, and the same thing with your press. I'm really proud of those. And your bench, you definitely seem to be taken as a natural bencher. Your first bench workout that we had was on 522, and then that was going to be 85 pounds for 5 reps, 3 times, so 3 sets of 5. And then we've managed to take that up a lot. So we had our first bench workout at the end of May. By near the end of June, we had our first workout with 135 for 5 by 3. And then, towards the end of July, we hit our first set with 185 for a triple. And then recently, as in 8:30, we hit that for 3 sets of 3. So definitely really proud of that progress as well. Doing a good job there. So these three hugely contributing to the amount of strength on the shoulder. I do have some videos here too. So this would be your first pressing workout at home that you had. This was that 35 pounds, so the 20-pound easy bar, or the 25-pound easy bar and some 5-pound plates. Where it was relatively heavy. It was hard at the lockout. So shrugging those shoulders up, clearing that AC joint. That was just a painful position overall. We didn't have very much strength there. And then over time, we really did a good job with getting that back in shape. So this is one of your pressing videos. And then as for bench, I think these all have contributed a good bit to the shoulder health, as well as a lot of the accessory stuff that we did in June and July, being all that dumbbell work, a lot of the kettlebell work too. Now for your deadlift and your squat, those have been a little bit more temperamental, as the big movements generally are. On 414, so that was the same day that we had this press workout in this row, we started with 95 pounds for 1 set of 5. Towards the beginning of May, whenever you started getting the gym set up in California, we had that up to 155, and then by the end of June, we had that up towards 260. That was where we peaked at for our deadlifts, and then we started hitting some back tweaks relatively around that time. And then now we're doing sumo. So this was our second sumo workout. It seems to be a little more flattering for your back. We're not getting any sort of pain response for it as of right now. Now, one important thing to note is that previously we're having you doing relatively low volume on deadlifts, relatively lower volume on squats, and we've really kicked up the volume on both of these recently to the point where, let's say for your end of June, your 260 for 5, now even just on your second workout for sumo, you're doing 6 sets of 4 at 160. So the back is in a much better condition. And then as for your squat was again a little temperamental in the beginning. On the first workout, just with your shoulder health towards the end of April and into early May, just the back squat itself was a pretty uncomfortable position for you. And then that was going to be 105 for 3 sets of 5. And then I'll grab a video for one of these guys too. So do your day 3 squat here. Yeah, and then we'll note a few things on this squat is that your hands had to be really, really far out, and I remember this position was uncomfortable from day one, and we've gotten that pretty down pat now. And then a good thing to note is on your earlier squats, they were all maybe about 2.5 inches high, which isn't the end of the world. We didn't have our lifters yet, so those Adidas lifters that have been helping you out on your squat. So since we did that squat reset in the beginning of July, all of your squats have been at a great depth, and I think we've run the knee through a larger range of motion while the knee was still relatively sensitive back in May and in April. The amount of knee flexion that you were able to get into was relatively limited, so it ended up stopping itself at around right here. And then if we'll go back and then we'll watch some of the squat videos from what you were doing relatively recently, and you're just burying those guys. So just getting that joint stronger through a larger range of motion, I think has helped out with your knee pathologies a good bit. So let me know how you've been feeling about those. Go back to the document. And then your top set for your box squat was 175 for 5 doubles. So that was really good progress there. Just holding the weight on your back and getting that knee stronger. I think we did a good job with that. I think the largest benefit that's going to come out of these two, outside of just getting stronger and everything, is they're going to help us work through our back tweaks and our other setbacks like that. So I've been keeping track of those guys down here and our tweaks and setbacks. So if on the minor scale we had a forearm injury in early July, and that guy was kind of coincided with when exactly we took off the rowing and then started to switching to either direct arm work and then now to your vertical pulling. And then we had some back tweaks, minor back tweaks, and I think these were more induced by just overworking through BJJ and some other cardio throughout July. Now, the major ones that we had were at the end of June, and then this one recently on the 16th. So that was only a few weeks ago. But essentially understanding the pain process more, so taking the time to read those articles that I'll send you and watch the videos so that we can understand and encapsulate the pain process more so that it's familiar and that we have the tools to work through those. Your training age is still relatively young when it comes to barbell-based resistance training. And again, we are only about 5 months in, so I'm definitely more than confident if you continue on this track and gaining the tool set to overcome these back tweaks, eventually it'll be a pretty automatic process for you. And really, just the goal here is that we want you to be more resilient whenever these things happen. So the more resilient you can be, even if you take a big hit for whatever tweak it is, so let's say if you take a bad fall at BJJ, or even if you get a back tweak whenever you're actually lifting. I remember you having some back spasms on some deadlifts after 2 back-to-back days from BJJ. Even if one of those things were to happen, you know exactly what to do, you know how to handle it. That way, if you ever wake up the next day and you feel like you can't walk, we know what to do, we know how to get moving again, and then that way, your quality of life won't be limited, because that's the goal here. The goal here in resistance training is to facilitate the rest of the things that we want to do. So let me know how you feel about how, progress has been, particularly our knee pain and our shoulder pain. The back injury from all the jumping out of perfectly good planes things, that's going to be a longer issue to have to deal with. That'll be, you're probably going to get a decent training age under your belt before some of these issues are going to have to start resolving themselves. But for the knee pain and the shoulder pain, I think we've done a good job on those. Same thing with the vertical pulling, definitely more than enough faith that we'll get you back to doing some chin-ups or pull-ups soon, and, pressing some heavy weights. So I think those have been pretty solid, but let me know how you think these have been going. And then how exactly you're liking the flavor of it. So we don't have to be super married to the deadlift and to the squat. There are a lot of variations. I mean, we've introduced sumo now that the conventional has been, causing the back to flare up a little bit more than it needs to. So we'll drive sumo the way it needs to for a while. We've been working on our box squats, on our pause squats, and things like that. So any and more feedback is always better. The one thing that I do think we need to work on is communication about outside of, barbell training events. For some of my, younger, more resilient athletes, they can, drink through a Friday and Saturday and then come in and hit some PRs on Sunday. I know I definitely can't do that. And then the same thing, even if I have a really hard practice, I know that a lot of times my lifting, even though I'm in a relatively good conditioning shape, my lifting is going to suffer. So if you do feel like some of the loading schemes or the rep schemes are a little bit aggressive for you, after, let's say that you went on the run with a fiance, you had a long night out, things like that, let me know. So more communication with those is definitely going to be better. That way, we can avoid kind of those more fatigue-induced injuries. Back tweaks are going to be unavoidable, as are injuries. Just as there's a chance of it happening, and there's a lot of time. So they will happen and they will come up, especially considering your history of trauma to the lower back. But it is something that we'll be able to work around eventually. So thank you very much for watching, and definitely be sure to reach out to me. I will be, so this is an actual tab in your version of the document. I'm going to put a link to this video in the top of it. That way, you can just go to the tab, look at the progress so far, click on the video, and then give this a listen. All right, I'll talk to you later, Greg. Thanks.